for Shohei Ohtani, even though it was, maybe not what we expected, this is a guy that has not taken batting practice all season, like at all. Since spring training, Shohei Ohtani has not taken batting practice, and he leads Major League Baseball in home runs. No matter what he did in the home run derby, no matter what he does on the mound, I mean, just that's almost unfathomable. I mean, I know it's another Brandon gushing over Shohei and, us gushing over Shohei, but if you're not just in awe of what this guy is doing, I don't know what to tell you, because this is, for me, the best story that I've ever seen in baseball. And it's not close. I mean, we're literally seeing Babe Ruth reincarnated. What is up, everyone? Brandon Ferst, aka First Report, representing the First Off the Bench podcast network. Everyone comes off the bench. We are first. Welcome into another edition of the Changeup here on the network. We break down everything baseball and softball related with my co-host, Bryanna Winner. You can find Bryanna at bwinner12. Bryanna, how you doing today?
I'm doing good and excited with what the Angels picked from this draft, and obviously some news I wish I didn't have to say about the home run derby.
Yeah, unfortunate situation there. Obviously, we are recording on All-Star Day, July 13th. The All-Star game will be going off here in a couple hours, but it'll be done and dusted by the time this gets out. But we're looking ahead in some situations and looking back in others. No 3 up, 3 down this week. Instead, we're going to name our, first half award winners, all the normal awards. We'll go through that. Obviously, talk about the All-Star game coming up in terms of, what to look for, what we're excited for, plenty of that. But we will start with some rather unfortunate news coming out of Atlanta. Look, when it rains, it pours, folks. It kind of all started, with the loss of the All-Star game for, reasons that weren't really baseball related in situations like that. But for the Braves, losing Ronald Acuna to a complete tear of his ACL, which is not good. Obviously going to end his season this year. And looking ahead, you have to ask the question, will we ever see the same Ronald Acuna Jr. Ever again? Unfortunately for the Braves, looks like their bleak season continuing to get worse and worse. But Bryanna, what are your thoughts on the very kind of sad news for one of baseball's top young superstars?
I mean, it's hard to go out this way, especially when it's only halfway through the year. But we also saw a bunch of injuries happen during spring training and those first few weeks. So at least it's happening now so that he can come back in time for next year. So, yeah. I mean, I'm glad it didn't happen later.
Yeah, it could have possibly turned into something more. And, for the Braves, I think it's now turned into a lost season. Kind of reload with the Soroka news, hearing that he ruptured his Achilles again, just walking. That begs the question if we're ever going to see Soroka again, or at least anytime soon. And then obviously for Acuna and, the Ozuna situation, he's in a pickle for a whole other reason. But for the Braves, either way, they are looking around trying to figure out how they're going to compete in an NL East that, we will at least say for their sake, it is weak, record wise. So, they have a chance. I guess if they somewhat get hot, but it's not looking good when you lose one of your top players. Moving on. So moving on to NCAA softball. This is more Bryanna's realm. So I'm going to pass it over to you, to Bryanna. What are we hearing out of NCAA softball, possibly rule change that I feel maybe is long overdue?
It may be long overdue, but it's also going to make the game go a lot longer. So they're thinking about possibly going to use instant replays starting next year. And we all know umpires are trash. No offense to the good ones that I've met, but most of you are trash. You can't see, you can't, like, all your calls are either like way off or they shouldn't have even happened. So I mean, in the comments that I saw on Twitter, it's just like it's going to make the game take longer because obviously we saw I want to say it was Suns and Clippers series where the instant replays were just the entire like last 2 minutes, and it took maybe like an hour just to get those 2 minutes played because of all the replays that they had to do. Obviously, I don't think that would happen in softball, but you never know because if it's something like really close, they're probably going to spend like 5-10 minutes on it.
Yeah, my question would be how it's handled in terms of, is it on site? Are the umpires there going to look at the replay? Is there a call center that's going to look and kind of call in like they do in Major League Baseball? They don't, the umpires on the field don't make the call. It's New York, I believe, that will go through, as opposed to the NFL that, you go under the hood, if you will. So how that is handled, I will say for the umpires, I think the mistakes are magnified. There are situations where, I wouldn't want to be in those having to make that call. And I do think instant replay, at least for baseball, has awarded some of these umpires the ability to just make some, be lazy out there. They know, look, if they make the wrong call, that there's going to be replay that kind of, either backs them up or, changes things, and, they just shrug it off. And for softball, I think it's even more of a bang bang sport, obviously, with the bases being shorter, field being a little smaller. So I don't think it could hurt. Now, once again, is it, how do they do the challenges? Is it, 2 for the managers? Is it handled by the umpires? There's, certain those things, but I think if it's 1 or 2, like it is in baseball, it's, I think it will make the game a little longer, but not to the extent of, unfortunately, basketball, even before instant replay, was notorious for the final 2 minutes really, really taking a while with timeouts and everything, at least if it's a close game. But for instant replay for NCAA softball, I think in this day and age where networks are going to show the mistakes over and over and over again if they affect the game, you have to incorporate instant replay in some form. It's kind of a catch-22 now of the new era. All the money that's coming in, or at least more money. I know there's definitely not as much, but the money that is coming in from ESPN and those news outlets, or media outlets, I should say, that essentially affords them the opportunity, or the really privilege to now take this to that step. Now, I do question, how is it handled in some of the smaller schools? Look, let's be honest, there are some areas that might be a little more difficult to get stuff there. I think kind of a smaller cities, maybe down in the South, things like that, but that's a bridge that they'll get to. And I believe it's just a proposal for now, correct?
It's just a proposal, but I think it's going to be the umpires deciding, just because most of the time it would, just like MLB going to New York, I think it would go to Oklahoma, because that's where obviously USA softball is based out of. It's where the Women's College World Series is held. So it would obviously go to Oklahoma if it were that, but I believe it's going to be the umpires getting to see the replays.
And I think that would make sense too, because, you got a Saturday, and I'm sure there could be 25, 30 games going at the same time. And inevitably there will be a time where 3 or 4 are called in or something. I was thinking even maybe conferences, the Big 12 will be out of Dallas or whatever. And I don't know, I'm not really sure, but regionalize it, things like that. But those are just questions I have. And because I do think that does affect the length of play. And I think the biggest thing is trying to correct mistakes that would normally be mistakes on the field. Now, when there are some times where guys slide into second base and for a split second, they come off of the bag and they can go frame by frame. Look, I understand hey, he technically came off the bag, but I don't think instant replay should be used to be a superhuman umpire in that situation. Now, if he thought he got there quickly, whatever, but if you go frame by frame, it's really hard to stay on the bag. That's the only thing. I kind of look at it at hockey. Now they've cleaned things up, but they used to say if the skate wasn't on the ice, it would be offsides. That rule, it's just, no referee in the world is going to be able to make that call quickly. So, even for umpires, they can't see that inch or, very small fraction of that bag or that batter or runner in this case come off the bag. So we'll see how it goes. But I think at the end of the day, it's at least NCAA softball. They're going to cut out some of the excuses. I'm sure there have been situations where teams would have loved to been able to throw the Ren Challenge flag, if you will. And yes, I know that won't be like that. But moving on to the other side of the NCAA baseball, softball realm, and it is, or at least the MLB draft, where we did see a fair number of players come out of NCAA. Obviously, a abbreviated draft, more so than last year, where we only saw 5 rounds. This year, I believe it was 10 or 20 rounds. I can't quite remember, but definitely a lot more, or 20. It was 20 rounds, excuse me, going forward. And obviously, the first pick went to those Pittsburgh Pirates, and it was kind of a foregone conclusion that they were going to go with a position player. There was a lot of questions, at least here in the local area, as about 15, 20 minutes from where I sit. Marcelo Meyer plays high school ball for Eastlake High. Obviously, Eastlake is a powerhouse in the region. Adrian Gonzalez went there. San Diego's only world championship is the Little League World Series champions. I think it was 2005 from Eastlake Little League. Obviously, you can see what's going on here. Instead of going number 1, as some had expected, it was Henry Davis, the catcher out of Louisville. One big thing to know about the draft is, a lot of these kids, especially if they're coming out of high school, but even some of the college kids, you probably aren't going to see them for a couple of years in best case scenarios. And a lot of these kids, you're going to see a lot of shortstops and catchers drafted in the first round, not necessarily expected to stay at that position. Generally, obviously, those players are the best athletes at those situations. So that's what you see there, especially at the high school level. You don't see too many second basemen drafted early on. May end up there, but Marcelo Meyer does end up going to the Boston Red Sox as I said, the shortstop out of Eastlake High School. Jack Leiter, son of Al Leiter, could have possibly gone number 1 overall if it wasn't for Pittsburgh picking number 1. Saying that they're going position player. Texas does get really probably the top pitching prospect in the whole draft. Jackson Jobe goes to Detroit, probably the best high school pitcher in the draft. For going down, I think really one of the best players that I'm going to be keeping my eye on, and unfortunately he ends up in the division. It is Jordan Lawler. He's going to Arizona. He was drafted number 6 overall. Out of the Dallas, Texas area, a kid that has put up some just crazy numbers and has been talked about for quite a while. Kumar Rocker goes to the Mets. He was a kid that I thought, was kind of, game 4 or game 3 of the College World Series, Kumar Rocker's going. And I expected Vanderbilt to get the job done. Didn't happen, but still a phenomenal talent. He'll be heading to the Big Apple eventually. Like I said, he's got to fight his way through the organization from there on out. But one kind of interesting topic, and both of us will get to kind of our team's draft in our individual reports. But one kind of interesting thing, we saw Max Muncy get drafted by the Oakland Athletics, I believe 12 years after the Max Muncy that you probably know right now was drafted by the Oakland Athletics. So a little interesting. Obviously, Max Muncy isn't exactly a Joe Smith, Tom Allen, one of those kind of obvious or well-known names, but Max Muncy drafted again. And I kind of think it's ironic. He's from, Thousand Oaks, so the LA area. Very, very interesting. He's a first-round pick. But for the Major League Baseball, obviously, it's great for these kids to be able to kind of get drafted. Last year was a bit of a wash for a lot of players. 50 rounds is the normal situation. Last year dropped down to only 5. So a lot of kids were left kind of wondering what their future was. This year with 20 rounds does help a little bit. But Moving on to All-Star weekend, it was time for the home run derby, and a lot of all eyes, really, not only here in the United States but all over the world, were on Shohei Ohtani. But it was the defending champ from 2019, Pete Alonso, who steals the show. 74 home runs, a real masterclass, just some absolute bombs, taking full advantage of the altitude. But Bryanna, I'm going to give you honors. What were your thoughts on the home run derby? Obviously, unfortunate, I think we all know who you were pulling for in the derby, but what were your thoughts on the derby overall?
We all know who everybody was pulling for at this point. Like, he's one of the best players in the league right now, and he couldn't get it done. But like you told me yesterday, he doesn't do much batting practice anyway. But he did do some right before, and it almost went out of the park, which is why I was surprised Ohtani started the way he did. And I think that was the first tiebreaker I've actually ever seen in a home run derby. And it took forever. But, I mean, Pete Alonso, after what he pulled that first round, he deserved it. Trey Mancini, I would have loved to have seen him win after everything that he's gone through with not being able to play last year because of the colon cancer diagnosis. I mean, I'm just glad he got runner-up. But
yeah,
that's just me. But yes, I would have loved Ohtani to win.
Yeah.
But at the start of that, I was like, he's not going to win.
I think it was a minor miracle that he tied it and got to the second time. Because, I mean,
I don't know what Mike Trout said to him, but because they ended up calling him in. I'm like, I don't know what Trout said to him, but got him going.
Yeah. And obviously for Ohtani, that's the one thing in the home run derby people talk about. You have to kind of change your swing up for a lot of these guys, and it messes them up. And I think that's kind of what Ohtani, I really do think, all of those guys, every 7 other players in that home run derby, that was the, 100th time this year they've taken batting practice. And even taking it before is one thing, but I still go back to that. And once again, yes, every time we talk about Shohei Ohtani, even if it is a first round exit. And one other thing before I get to that, who in the world came up? I know the seeds, I believe, are based on home runs, but how is Juan Soto an 8 seed? If you're going to sit here and tell me,
how is Pete Alonso a 5 seed?
Exactly. How is Salvador Perez higher than Pete Alonso seeded wise? I mean, it just doesn't make a ton of sense. I'll have to figure that out, hopefully. But anyways, for Shohei Ohtani, even though it was, maybe not what we expected, this is a guy that has not taken batting practice all season, like at all. Since spring training, Shohei Ohtani has not taken batting practice, and he leads Major League Baseball in home runs. No matter what he did in the home run derby, no matter what he does on the mound, I mean, just that's almost unfathomable. I mean, I know it's another Brandon gushing over Shohei and, us gushing over Shohei, but if you're not just in awe of what this guy is doing, I don't know what to tell you, because this is, for me, the best story that I've ever seen in baseball. And it's not close. I mean, we're literally seeing Babe Ruth reincarnated. And he's not chugging beers after the game, smoking cigars. We have an actual athlete that is kind of carrying the torch for our sport. And whether or not he needs an interpreter doesn't really matter. And yes, that is a shot towards Stephen A. Smith, who made just an absolute fool of himself. Stick to basketball. Stick to what you know, Stephen A. But baseball isn't your thing. Tons of respect for Stephen A., but just shut up sometimes. Anyways, moving on to the All-Star game that will be going off here in a couple hours. Once again, Shohei Ohtani breaking records and making history. It feels like the 25th, 30th time this year. It's the first time, blah, blah, blah. And it's Shohei going to not only pitch, but he's going to lead off for the American League. I cannot wait for the All-Star game. I personally can't wait for a little intra-podcast start right off the bottom of the first. We're going to see Fernando Tatis go up against Shohei Ohtani. I can't wait for this All-Star game, mainly for Shohei and for me selfishly. It's been so long since the Padres have had not only a starter, but multiple All-Stars that, could really affect the game, as Manny Machado did make it in after kind of some players dropped out. But really, really excited for the All-Star game. Bryanna, obviously, what's your excitement level for this game coming up? I know you're definitely got your eyes on Shohei and, Walsh as well. Do you need me to repeat that?
You don't know, it was me. Said my connection was unstable. So I just heard an Cat League inter podcast with Tatis and Ohtani going up against each other.
Gotcha.
That was as far as it got. And the Manny Machado. That's as far as it got.
No problem. Yeah, all I kind of finished up with was saying in terms of what's your excitement level, and obviously we know you're going to keep your eye on Shohei and Walshy, but what's your excitement level for the All-Star game coming up?
I think it's going to be a good game. Obviously, you get the best in the league now, and Ohtani is certainly the best, and I'm going to get to him in the winner's circle and later. I'm sure you will too. So, I mean, I'm excited. I'm excited that Walsh made it in. Trout obviously is an all-star in and of itself, but he obviously cannot play at the moment. I'm really hoping he comes back soon because the Angels.
Yeah, definitely. And Mike Trout as well would be sorely missed. But I just am really, really excited to see the best in the game go at it. And I think that's a perfect little segue into the winner's circle. Bryanna going to break down everything Angel related. Bryanna, it's all yours.
Well, the first thing I'm going to start off with is the Angels and Valley West did fire play-by-play broadcaster Darren Sutton after only 89 games, and he is the son of Don Sutton, who did pass away in January. It is not said why they fired him. That was all I could find. I trust me, I looked. You can't find why. They have not said why. Moving on, Ohtani broke the record for the most home runs in a season by a Japanese-born player in Friday's 7-3 loss against the Mariners with his 33rd home run. And it's only July. And he's already breaking just about every single record. Going into the draft, the Angels did have 20 picks, and they got what they needed most. All 20 of their picks were pitchers. 19 of them were college athletes. One was high school, but they also got 14 right-handers and 6 left-handers. So, I mean, I hope that this goes well for them. We need some of them now. Specifically Sam Bachman, who they did pick 9th overall from Miami University in Ohio. So please pull up some of these pitchers for the bullpen. I am begging you, please. So they're still 4th in the American League West. They are 2 games back of the Mariners, 9 of the Astros. They went 1-3 against the Mariners this last week, and their only win, which was on Sunday, Fletcher went 4 for 5 with 4 RBIs, including 1 home run. I think that was his best game of the year, and especially after he was hitting 9th in the lineup for some time. He's now back to the leadoff spot where he deserves, especially after that performance. So obviously after All-Star Week is over, they have 3 games at home against the Mariners, July 16th through the 18th. And then the 19th and 20th, they are facing the A's. It's going to be a rough week after the All-Star break. But hopefully they can do what the 2019 Nationals did. Obviously not win the entire thing, but at least get to second. That's all I want is second.
Yeah, they're gonna need to have a great second half surge. And going back to your the draft for the Angels, it has kind of been, or at least what I read is Bachman is kind of expected to be this year's Crochet from last year that kind of was drafted and then was the first player called up from that draft. So possibly see him, August, September. I know Bryanna wants to see that ASAP. Anyone else really. It doesn't have to be from this draft, I'm sure. Bryanna will not be picky at this point, nor will any Angel fan be picky. But speaking of picky, if you are a Padre fan, you cannot be picky about any starting pitcher the Padres will have to bring in during the trade deadline here in the next couple weeks, because the injuries have officially begun to mount. You had Blake Snell placed on the DL. Yu Darvish has been placed on the DL after he announced he pulled out of the All-Star game. And then, of course, Sunday, last game of the series, you saw Ryan Weathers, and luckily it's not a ruptured Achilles, but he will miss some time. He has a lower, lower body injury is what it's been categorized, but not a ruptured Achilles, which would have been obviously, the Soroka situation. It could be anything for a very long time, but hopefully we'll see Weathers here in, a month or so. But for the Padres, it's all hands on deck pitching wise. And really, unfortunately, it's shown. They split a 4-game series and were lucky to split a 4-game series with the Nationals, and then went into the All-Star break, losing 2 out of 3. They find themselves currently 6 games behind the Giants. That's the furthest they've been back of first place all season. Not the best time to be doing that. However, they are pretty much, unless something ridiculous happens, going to be at the very least a wild card team. However, if you're a baseball fan, that wild card game is nerve-wracking. 1-game playoffs in San Diego don't generally go well. Still waiting for Matt Holliday to touch home plate, but we'll see how that goes going forward. But looking back, really one of the most special moments of the year for the Padres, going back to Thursday night, game 4 against the Nationals. And the reason why I say they were lucky to split with the Nationals, they go down 8-0. Really, maybe the start of Darvish's struggles, or that's when they realized he was hurt. He got banged up. They have to go to Daniel Camarena, pretty much career minor leaguer, hometown local kid, 11 years in the minors, comes up. And an unfortunate situation. The night before, the Padres got beat 15-5. Chris Paddock again struggles. They have to go through their bullpen. So Daniel Camarena has to bat for himself. Padres are down 8-2 in the 4th. Bases are loaded. You think, okay, 2 outs. This is going to be a lost cause, especially against Max Scherzer, who, by the way, will start tonight for the National League. Instead, Daniel Camarena goes down and gets a 4-seamer and takes it into the right field pavilion. My goodness, it was one of the more surreal moments as a baseball fan, not as a Padre fan, but as a baseball fan. And I will say it was slightly spoiled thanks to my MLB app that I'm very, very frustrated about. I had to turn off my notifications because of it, because for whatever reason, it came in about a good second before the ball was actually hit. So it was definitely spoiled for me. However, it didn't matter. Obviously, a fantastic effort from the kid who's, first home run, or first hit, I should say, is a grand slam. First time that's happened since, I think, 1888. Just some real stuff. That's baseball for you. 11 years in the minor leagues. And if you know anything about playing minor league baseball, 4 or 5 years in minor leagues is a rough stretch or tough to deal with. You got to absolutely love the game. 11 years, my goodness, what an incredible run for him. And a moment he will not soon forget, nor will Padre fans. Obviously, it was a bit spoiled in the fact that the Padres pretty much scored just as many runs as he did on one swing of the bat the entire weekend against the Rockies. But, we're trying to stay positive as Padre fans. Looking at the draft, the Padres, personally, I don't care about the draft this year. This is a team right now that is contending. And if you're a team that's contending, there's nothing in the draft that's going to change this trajectory of the team, especially when you're drafting number 27 overall, like the Padres did. I will talk about their first round pick I lost him. It is, there we are, Jackson Merrill out of Severina Park High School in Maryland. Look, he's a shortstop, high school shortstop. Most of these kids, obviously we're set in the shortstop position. If he does make it up to the majors in the next 4 or 5 years, it will probably have to be in a different position. We'll see how that goes. But like I said, for the Padres going forward, they definitely had a nice little mix of college pitchers along with some high school position players. That seems to be kind of Preller's MO. But once again, for the Padres, it's about the 26 guys that are on the field right now. And then the unfortunate 10 guys that they're hoping to come back: Lamet, Snell, Darvish, Weathers. I mean, yeah, that's pretty much our entire starting pitching staff, trying to be held together with Scotch tape at this point. But look, if you're going to have guys go on the 10-day DL, this is the time. You're going to have 4 days to kind of rest up. We are in the middle of that, but it's going to be tough. Looking ahead for the Padres, an East Coast road trip over the next 9 days. They'll have 3-game series in Washington to take on the Nationals, and then Atlanta to take on the Braves, who are also struggling with their own injury issues. And then, of course, the Marlins, who, I'll be honest, they're not a very good baseball team, but they got some players on that team, which I will get to here in a bit. But that is all I have for the Padre report. Once again, looking ahead, the worst time to be 6 games back, or the furthest you've been back from first place, of course, is the All-Star break, or at this time, take a deep breath, try and figure out a way to, beat the teams that you're supposed to beat. It's one thing to sweep the Dodgers and get everybody really, really excited, but then to, split with the Nationals and lose 2 out of 3 to the Rockies, not looking good for the Padres at the moment, but going to stay positive, just keeping the faith. We'll see what they're going to have to do at the trade deadline, as arms aplenty will be needed, no doubt about that. So moving on to the mid-season awards, obviously a whole half of the season to come. We're not picking who we think is going to finish in this situation. We are picking who for the first 84, 85 games, depending on where you are, where they would be if the season ended today, who these award winners will be. We're going to start with the American League Manager of the Year. And I will start with, actually, no, you know what, Bryanna, I'm going to go with you since you're kind of the American League as an angel. We'll start with you. Who do you have as your American League Manager of the Year?
I'm only saying this because of how this team is right now. Tony La Russa somehow is keeping the White Sox together, and they are still winning despite all of the injuries that they've had in the last few months. That was the only reason I am saying La Russa, is just because of the injuries and how they're still somehow winning. Yeah. And basically leading the American League in general.
Yeah, I would say they're the most consistent and best team. The Red Sox are really good.
I was thinking the Red Sox, but I'm like, based on these injuries, it's going to be the White Sox.
I agree with you. At least in that, he was definitely in my top 3. I'm going to go a little elsewhere. I'm going to actually go Scott Service of the Seattle Mariners. This is a guy that has his team, and I know, unfortunately for Bryanna, in 3rd place in the National League West. They're above 500. And after everything that happened this offseason, I mean, you could have made a case that this was going to be a team that might be one of the worst teams in the division. Obviously, the Rangers were bad as is, but I'm going to go Scott Service. I do like your Tony La Russa pick, mainly because, like you said, keeping that team together with all their injuries. They will get Eloy Jimenez back apparently here towards the end of July, which
I'll believe that when I see it.
Yeah, exactly. You can tweet out your 200% all you want, but we're going to need to see that very soon. And I'm sure the White Sox will be very active come the trade deadline, is just because they're getting Eloy back, soon, or, at least in the next month. They're not getting a lot of other guys back, but it will not actually be the first time or the last time I will talk about the White Sox here in this one, or a White Sox, I should say. Moving on to the National League Manager of the Year. I'll take the honors to start this one as, Padre. And I'm going to keep it in the National League West. Look, I don't know how you get away from Gabe Kapler. I think Gabe Kapler has been by far the Manager of the Year for the San Francisco Giants. This is a team that I didn't think could do any better than 3rd place, and they are in 1st place over the Dodgers and the Padres. I think the Giants are the best team in baseball. However, this is just right now. I don't know how long this could continue. Pitching staff's been really good and stuff like that, but I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop. Maybe it's just the bias in me and me hoping that will happen. But for me right now, through the first half of the year, Gabe Kapler is my National League Manager of the Year. Bryanna, what's your pick?
You took it out of my mouth. Basically,
yeah, I don't know how you get away from that.
And the other shoe to drop would probably be whenever the Dodgers decide to go on a run at this point. But I mean, the fact that San Francisco has kept the Dodgers at bay, hell, they've kept you at bay, you and your Padres at bay somehow. And again, this is not where we expected this team to be start of the season, but I'm kind of glad they're there.
And I'll go as far as to say, look, even if the Giants go on and they end up kind of tumbling down and end up, let's just say, finish 3rd, but they make it into the wild card, I still have him as the Manager of the Year. I mean, like I said, I didn't expect this team to be anywhere near the playoffs this year in this format. Well, once again, last year, I think they lost out on the last day of the season. But that was with 8 teams, with only 5 teams getting in. Really, really great. Well, not great for me as a Padre fan, but I will say, I can't hate on Gabe Kapler. I think he kind of got a raw deal in Philadelphia, as well, to be fair, a lot of guys, a lot of managers do that don't win in Philadelphia. So it is what it is. But moving on to the rookie of the year. I'm going to start this one. We'll start with the American League. Bryanna, we'll start with you first. Rookie of the year. Yes. I don't know.
I don't have anybody.
Really?
I don't know what rookies are actually playing based on all the injuries that have happened this year. I know it was Marlins had a rookie come in, but again,
yeah,
he's only been there for like 2 weeks.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Maybe not the one I was thinking of. For my American League, I had Adolis Garcia of Texas. He's hitting 270 with 22 home runs, right there. And Randy Arozarena is right there as well, for me. But Adolis Garcia has been, kind of a one-man wrecking ball. Had a hot streak in the middle part of the year. And then for the National League, Jazz Chisholm, the Miami Marlins, he's been there all year. He's 11 home runs, 11 stolen bases, plays a very, very good outfield. I really, really like those two as the rookie of the year, but still a lot can change. Obviously, second half of the year, you might see someone come up, make something happen. But for right now, those are my two right now. But we'll move on to the AL Cy Young. What are your thoughts on the American League Cy Young, Bryanna?
Well, I'm pretty sure we both have the same National League pitcher.
Yes, definitely.
I'm pretty sure we have the same one. So this was kind of difficult because I was obviously looking at strikeouts, whip, ERA. I was looking at everything. Ultimately, I did go with Garrett Cole. He has 147 strikeouts, 114 innings pitched, and then 0.93 whip. He doesn't have the best ERA or the record, but I'm pretty sure nobody has that many strikeouts outside of him, and his whip is also the lowest out of everybody.
Yeah. I went to Chicago, and I went and got Lance Lynn. I think his ERA
is my other one.
Yeah, 1.99. I think it's a toss up, and once again, it's it would be a really tight race. And some of these, I think, once again, the National League, I don't think it is. However, I do have a bit of a caveat. But yeah, Lance Lynn for me is there. And I will say I definitely gave a look to Shohei. But it's
the numbers
the numbers aren't there to win just a pitcher only award right now, but still I think would be in the top 5 in anybody's ballot. And if not, you're just biased or crazy. But yeah, I think for the National League, it is safe to say we both say Jacob deGrom. But I do have, like I said, a caveat, because technically he is injured and he's been a little banged up. If for whatever reason he doesn't get back out there, I don't think you can give it to him. So I did kind of call out Kevin Gausman as well, just in case. Although, looking ahead, I kind of breaking my own rules here, but Jacob deGrom has to be the Cy Young of the first half. Agreed, Bryanna?
Yep, I totally agree. I mean, his ERA is now over 1.
Yeah.
But he has 146 strikeouts.
And it took a 2-run homer to get it finally over 1, by the way. Just one 2-run homer.
Yeah, and it's 1.08 ERA. I'm like, nobody came close to his ERA. There is nobody else you could pick.
No, and it's a perfect segue into the American League MVP. There's only one choice to make, and Bryanna, I'm going to obviously give you the honor in this one. Who's your American League MVP?
It's going to be the guy that is currently holding the lead in home runs, also has broken multiple records this year, and he's doing what nobody else can do. It is Shohei Ohtani. I mean, you can't question anybody else in the American League at this point. If he keeps going, he is going to be the MVP this year. I don't care what you say about Trout with him being injured. When he comes back, he's going to do great, but Ohtani is going to be the MVP this year.
Yeah, I agree. It's not even close. It's done and dusted. Look, the season could end right now, or Ohtani, and I don't want to speak this up, but you know what I mean? Like he could not play a single game, and I still have him as my MVP. No one's even close. However, I will say it will be really interesting to see if Vladimir Guerrero Jr. wins the Triple Crown, but does not win MVP. Because, like I said, I don't think there's anything that anybody can do that takes away the MVP unless they stop pitching Shohei, which is not going to happen. So,
the only reason it would stop happening is if he has Tommy John again.
Exactly. And
that's the only reason he would stop pitching.
Yeah, I don't think that would be, that won't happen. Hopefully anytime soon. But yeah, for the American League MVP, there's one name and one name only. It's Shohei Ohtani. And if it's anybody else, you're just fooling yourself. And you're just biased for some reason.
And you're just wrong.
Yeah. That's 100%. Any of these other ones, you can make a case for someone else. Maybe not DeGrom, but whatever. But this one, no, this is the hill I am dying on. I think Bryanna is as well. And I don't think anyone's really trying to get up here, to be honest, because it's not anybody else. And once again, if you think it is, you're wrong on a lot of levels. So anyways, moving on to the National League MVP. And look, it's going to be biased and it's going to be, people might roll their eyes or whatever, but look, it's Fernando Tatis Jr. for me. I think this is a guy who has the most home runs by a shortstop before the All-Star break in history. He's also the youngest shortstop to go 2020 before the All-Star break. This kid is obviously a superstar at this exact moment. He's flirting with 300 while leading the National League in home runs. He's a superstar, period. He is my MVP. This is not nearly as much of a runaway as the Shohei is. There are definitely plenty of contenders for this crown, and who knows? He might not even be the favorite right now in most people's eyes, but for me, it's Fernando Tatis Jr. Bryanna, who do you have?
I mean, I did put Tatis down there, but I thought that was going to be a little bias of me.
Yep.
So I did put Castellanos there too.
Yeah, that's and once again,
I wasn't sure what you were going to do, if you were going to try to void the Padres and put that somewhere else, or if you're going to put him there. So I just put a slash. I didn't know.
I mean, I think everybody, no matter what you think of Fernando Tatis, you have to put him in your top 3 or at least your top 5. Period.
Yeah, he's my top 2. I just didn't want to be biased. I didn't want to do all that. So I put Castellanos there too.
He's having a fantastic year as well. And there's plenty of players in the National League that have had great years to start. But yeah, Fernando Tatis for me has been amazing. And I'll be the first one to admit I see him on a daily basis. There are plenty of players, not exactly I see on the same volume. So really, really excited to get ready to look forward to the second half of the year, because everybody kind of takes a break, and from now on, you can no longer use the excuse, oh, it's early, period. No matter what, even last week, you could have made the case, oh, well, it's early. Maybe not if you're a Diamondback fan, maybe not if you're an Oriole fan, maybe not if you're a Pirate fan, but, for pretty much every other team still, with your 0.2 chance.
We still talk about the American League Central here.
Yeah.
Because right. Detroit and the Twins.
I mean, hey, you have a chance possibly at the wild card. Who knows? They're not fully gone. I mean, look, the Diamondbacks are setting more records.
They're fully gone.
They're gone. The Orioles gone. And like I said, the Pirates probably gone. But like I said, not very favorable. It's kind
Rangers.
of that Jim Carrey in Dumb and Dumber. So you're saying there's a chance. Yeah, Rangers. But it's not a very good one. And Rangers, no. They don't factor into anything either, but they haven't mattered for a little bit since they got mad at Tatis swinging 3-0. I've kind of looked at them as a minor league baseball team since then. But anyways, final thoughts, Bryanna, as we wrap up this all-star edition of the Changeup.
I mean, I'm just excited to see Scherzer versus Ohtani, Tatis versus Ohtani. I am just ready for this all-star game.
Yeah, Ohtani versus blank. I mean, I hope they let him go for a little bit. Now, I know, 2 innings is probably max for him. I'd like for him to go all the way through the lineup. And then
I just hope he's not exhausted after what he had to deal with yesterday.
100%. We've never seen anything like this,
because
right?
He was gassed.
We've never seen a starting pitcher have to deal with coming off of a home run derby. I mean, that's just that we've always kind of talked about, or at least me and my buddies have talked about how much fun it would be for there to be a pitcher home run derby. Now, that probably will never happen because of injuries, but we've obviously never seen a situation like this where we had a pitcher in the home run derby. And even though, wasn't what it was expected of Ohtani, still put forth a very, very good effort. And under old school rules, where it wasn't a head-to-head matchup, it was more who hit the most. I think they started with 8, boom, top 4 advance, and then the top 2 advance. Not the case anymore, but still a great showing, I think, for Ohtani. More so the situation that, look, this is a guy who's been pitching at a very high level as well, hasn't taken batting practice. But anyways, really excited for the All-Star game here on this podcast. I'm really excited to get the second half rolling and see who will be making a run towards their pennants going forward. Definitely as a Padre fan, hoping the Padres can start taking some chunks out of the division lead and start running down the very, very talented and very surprising San Francisco Giants. But
I just need the Angels to catch the Mariners. That's all I need
definitely.
right now.
You're right. And then hopefully run down the something, get up in the second place for you.
Yeah, and we got to get past the Mariners first.
Definitely.
Now we're gonna face hurdle. And that week after the All-Star week's over is the 2 and 3 in the American League West.
There you go.
So it's gonna be a rough week.
You're gonna have to get those wins when you can. But with that, thank you all so much for listening to the Changeup here on the First Off the Bench podcast network. Everyone comes off the bench. We are first. Now it is time for you all to go wash your hands and stop hating everybody. Take care.